Your Royal Highness, thank you so much for joining me on the record.
Well, it's nice to be back with you, Ms. Hadley.
U.S. President Donald Trump has said that any attack on Qatar is an attack on the security of the United States. Too little, too late?
It's never too late to reassure friends of your friendship. And I think everybody, particularly in Qatar, would have expected such a reassurance from Mr. Trump, just to allay the fears, not just of the Qatari people, but also to make a point to Netanyahu and his cohorts that they shouldn't do it again. So that, I think, was an acceptable a measure from Mr. Trump to make up for the question marks that arose after the Israeli attack on Qatar.
How do you feel about the 20-point plan?
Well, I think we still have to wait before we clap and shout with joy. We have to see how it is applied. All the comments that I heard from both sides is that the devil is in the detail. And the details are quite a few. The Arab peace plan, although it was much more comprehensive than the Gaza proposal by Mr. Trump, I think had 6 or 7 points only. So having 20 points requires a more enlarged comprehension of what each side understands from it.
How significant is it in your mind that we've not heard, at least in this version of the plan, anything about a Gaza Riviera? Do you think that's off the table?
Definitely. From the beginning, I think it was an unaccepted proposition, even within the framework of the American administration. It's a kind of, a poof that came up out of somebody's, I won't use a descriptive word, somebody's idea, but it's not on the table.
When you think about what happens next, what would you like to see come of the conversations?
I'd like to see, first of all, stopping the killing.
A ceasefire.
300, 400, one person, two persons is just too much. And over 65,000 people have been killed according to statistics. Nobody knows how many more there are under the rubble. So it could be twice that number. So that is the first obligation for human beings everywhere, not just Mr. Trump and Arabs and Israelis. The second thing, of course, I'd love to see a permanent result of this attempt to set the track going for a two-state solution. A viable Palestinian state on the West Bank and Gaza with Jerusalem as its capital.
Do you believe Mr. Netanyahu is going to be forced simply by world opinion?
I don't think Netanyahu cares about world opinion. I think what he cares about is staying in power. But more than that, I think he also recognizes that Mr. Trump wants him to be constructive on reaching a settlement and ending the killing. And that is very important, I think, to keep in mind.
Yes. Do you think then that the world has to put its faith in President Trump?
I don't know if I can put it in those terms. Politics is not a place where people can put faith in anybody. Mr. Trump has shown a determination to achieve what he said he wants to achieve, which is peace in the Middle East. Well, he has a chance to prove it. And once he has proven it, that's the time I think we can say whether there is faith or no faith in what he says.
But do you believe this is a good step in that direction?
I hope so. Of course, I'm not in official circles, so I don't know the details of what the talks were. After Mr. Trump designed this proposal, he discussed it with Arab and Muslim leaders. And they have come out strongly with public statements encouraging Mr. Trump to continue and putting their support for him on the table. So from that perspective, I respect that these Arab and Muslim leaders know what they're doing.
It's almost 2 years since October 7th. You and I were together just around that time 2 years ago talking about what was happening in Gaza. At that time, we were talking about, was this a genocide? Do you believe that it is today?
You know, in those days, I remember when we talked, and subsequently I said that, you know, if the aim of Israel is to destroy Hamas, that by its actions, it is actually inventing several Hamas. A whole new generation of Palestinian, not just kids, but from every walk of life, and not just in Gaza. But you see what the Israelis are doing on the West Bank. That is not being much reported on, but it is equally devastating to Palestinian society. Those are the germs of what made Hamas what it was when it came out in the 80s and 90s. It is the Israeli oppression of the Palestinian people and denying them their right to self-determination, their right to a nationhood, to being human beings. So this is my fear, that by Israel's actions and the killings that they have done, that more Hamases will come out of that, even if this one disappears from view.
Are we seeing evidence in your mind of that already?
I don't think we can say we have, because it's still too short a time to judge on those kids who are 10 years old, 15 years old, who have been affected by the Israeli genocide.
Yes.
We still have to wait and see when they become 20 and maybe don't find a job, don't have prospects for a living, can't get married, can't have children of their own. They miss going to school because of what has happened. So they will come up and grow up with grievances, and justifiable grievances. So we still have to wait and see.
How positive are you on Hamas coming to the table on this 20-point plan?
Well, you asked in the morning in the session, I remember if there were any people who had faith, or what was the word you used?
Confidence.
Confidence or optimism, and I raised my hand.
You did. You were one of 8 people. It was a big group.
I'm always optimistic, because I truly believe that there is a God, and that in the end, the affairs of mankind will always turn, hopefully, for the better. In spite of all of the darkness that surrounds what is happening in the circumstances of Gaza. So I hope Hamas will say, we've made our point, our role is finished, we'll leave it to the Palestinian people to carry on from there. If I were in their place, this is what I would do. But thank God I am not in their place.
How do you believe your God would judge us for allowing this to continue?
Well, very harshly, very harshly. You know, to wait 2.5 years of this consistent killing of people, stemming from 80 years of persecution and killings, is not started in October 2023. It started when Balfour decided to give Palestine to a Jewish homeland. That's more than 100 years ago, when the Palestinians have been continually trying to achieve their rights and have been denied, first by the British, who were the mandate power, and then by the Israelis when Israel was established in 1948, and then by the rest of the world when they let Israel do what it has been doing.
Have you been encouraged to see European nations recognizing Palestinian statehood?
Definitely. And I think this is a tremendous success for not only Saudi Arabia, but for humanity. You know, to finally say to the Palestinian people, yes, you are equal to us. and not only as victims of colonialism, but as rightful representatives of a people. This is something, I think, a tremendous achievement, which fortunately the kingdom had the leading role with France in achieving.
Tell me this. In the 20-point plan, one of the suggestions is to have a stabilizing force in Gaza. Should that include Arab nations?
Well, you heard the minister speak this morning. They said no, but I am not certain how things will go on from now. My view is that there will have to be an international force that will be composed of European, American, Muslim countries to come together and enforce whatever agreement is reached between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Who will be represented on that force? It's not for me to say.
I want to ask you about a couple of the places where you've practiced the art of diplomacy as ambassador to the United Kingdom and to the United States. When you look at what's happening in the social context today in the United Kingdom, there are a lot of fears over what migration is doing to the social fabric of the country. Part of that is based on economics. People think they just can't afford to take more people. And also there is a racial element of that as well. How do you see it?
I'm surprised by people who think that immigration is a bad word. Yeah, if you look at all of our countries in the world, they all arose out of the coming together of different people from different backgrounds who decided to live together and progress together. From the Chinese, the people came to China in the 2,000, 5,000 year old country and then made what China was. If you look at Islamic civilization, it extended from China all the way to Europe. All those peoples in between were represented there and made it what it was. If you look at Europe, and even in the Middle Ages, when so-called nationalism came about, could we say in 1600, for example, that England was purely English? No. It had Scots, it had Irish, it even had French, it had Germans who migrated, Danes who came there. The same for France. The United States is a country of immigrants. But I would say that there needs to be, for the residents of any country, assurances that these immigrants are not going to affect their livelihoods. So there have to be rules that people live by.
Yes.
And unfortunately, in some cases, whether it is in Europe or in America or anywhere else that such immigrants come, sometimes these rules are absent.
There's a narrative that with so many young, unmarried men coming to England's shores, that the country is less safe, and there is some evidence to back that up. In your mind, what is the solution there?
Well, I think there has to be better policing and better opportunities for young people to work.
Yes.
Because people who are employed are not people who commit crimes. So unless crime is their employment. But I hope not. So whether it is England or France or Italy or whatever countries that are facing this social issue, they have to have better policing and also more fair policing.
Yes.
Not simply better policing.
Do you anticipate that we will see, as a result of the new government in Syria, migration flows from Europe back to Syria in real numbers?
I think there would be.
Yeah.
Because with all of the efforts that hopefully will take place in Syria to reach a stable and progressing and economically viable Syria, people will want to come and take advantage of that. And if they're originally Syrian, they will have more of an advantage than somebody else. But the other thing also I would say about immigration, if we look at Europe, it has a declining population. So how can they, not square the circle, as it were, in not accepting immigration. That's why having a regulated system of fair inclusion of immigrants into these societies is important for them to continue, because they're going to die out, whether it is a century or whatever, much longer, unless they bring people in.
Do you believe people coming to those countries ought to be living by those democratic values?
Absolutely. They have to be educated into the social mores and regulations that make up those societies. They cannot come just and impose their own values or their own norms and so on the people that they're joining.
Yes.
They have to acquire the sense of the nationhood that make up these countries.
There's been a lot of movement recently to disarm Hezbollah. The United States has said that that is a prerequisite to continuing aid to that country. There has been a lot of talk about what that might look like, whether, Hezbollah fighters might eventually be absorbed into the Lebanese armed forces. How do you see that evolving?
It's a difficult situation. The end result, if they don't disarm, is going to be civil war. And is that a good thing for the Lebanese people or for the rest of us? It is not. And this is why I say whoever is in charge of Hezbollah today, and I don't know if Iran is still in charge of Hezbollah, or is it simply the people who are benefiting from the positions they have acquired because of Hezbollah, is it good for them to be killed by a civil war that will harm everybody?
Yes.
I don't think it's nice for them to consider these things in those terms.
Could you see a possibility where Israel would then take part of Lebanon?
Well, already Israel has part of Lebanon. It's not a matter of when it takes part of Lebanon. It has held parts of Lebanon since 1982, when it first invaded Lebanon under Sharon and Begin. So this is something that has to be tackled by the world community.
Yes.
And as was said this morning in your session, why is Israel there? Lebanon is no longer threatening Israel. Hezbollah has been decimated. It's just an excuse for the Israelis not only to show that they are the stronger party there, but that they can impose their will on a country like Lebanon.
It's interesting. When I speak to American officials, they tell me that Hezbollah is rebuilding. When I speak to Arab officials, they say they have no evidence of that.
Absolutely. If they show the evidence, then show it. They have no evidence.
Your Royal Highness, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gamble. I hope we can see each other again.
Yes, indeed.
Inshallah.